It's Wednesday night. Rewind-A-Dynamite. Your fighting spirit and your might. Leap and take flight. Sky high, Luchasaurus high. Scream, cheer, rejoice and sing. Hear the bell ring. What will tonight's show bring? Everyone is listening to Post Wrestling with John Pollock and Wai Ting. They've got the fuse. If you've got the light, hit the switch on TNT and Rewind-A-Dynamite.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a late-night edition of Rewind-A-Dynamite. I'm John Pollock, along with Mr. Wai Ting. How are you, Wai?
I'm doing very well here. This is a 12:30 a.m. start for us, a lot later than usual. And so this will be you know what? As we speak right now, it is Christmas Eve. Happy Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas, Wai. Merry Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas Eve. And I hope you enjoyed your Tibbs Eve, John.
My what?
Tibbs Eve. Tibbs. It is something I learned today from our good friend Robert Brocky, the postmaster. Apparently, Tibbs Eve is something they celebrate in Newfoundland and Labrador. It is December 23rd, and it is essentially, as he tells me, like the time, the day before your family period, where you go out with your friends and you just get drunk. Like Tibbs Eve is like, you know, your night with friends, and then Christmas Eve and Christmas are your family days.
Well, I hope Tibbs Eve is not being celebrated, although I don't know really what the situation is like in Newfoundland. So
no, not much of a Tibbs Eve this year, I believe.
No. Okay.
You can always get drunk on Skype and Zoom, I assume.
So is it an intentional play on words that Tibbs Eve would mean that you probably will be tipsy?
I don't think they intended for that, but you know, I'm sure that joke's been made. Apparently, it is named after a character from a 17th century play named Saint Tib.
You did some deep dive research into this.
I typed Tibbs Eve into Google and clicked on the first result. Yes.
Well, happy Tibbs Eve, happy Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas if you're listening to this later. Right off the top, most of you listening to this, if it's Christmas Eve, it means that the post-wrestling Christmas show is either just about to drop or it's already there. And if it's already there, you can go look at what is in store for post-wrestling listeners over the Christmas break. This is always a very fun show to do. It's quite a lot of extra work for us, but enjoyable extra work, I would say.
I think so, and the knowledge that like the audience enjoys it, we definitely spend a lot more time, you know, with the show and with our guests. But by the end of it, it's always an incredibly rewarding experience, and to know that so many people at this point kind of rely on it as sort of a part of their tradition for Christmas Eve and Christmas. That is just an honor. So enjoy, everybody, and let us know what you think.
Yes, we hope we encourage any feedback to the show. It's always great to hear. Hopefully everyone enjoys the show. We like putting it on and being a small part of your holiday if it is something you are checking out. So that's up there. And then Wai and I are going to be off on Friday, but we will come back Saturday with a quick rewind to SmackDown for our Post Wrestling Cafe members, going through the episode of SmackDown that is airing on Christmas night. So that's our schedule over the next couple of days. Lots of listening for you in the meantime between this, the Christmas show, and
the news update from earlier in the day.
Oh my goodness. Multiple times that we have already spoken today. Yes, we have a 20-minute news update going through the Raw ratings, the updated lineup for Wrestle Kingdom, and chatting about spoilers.
Well, yeah, we did not reveal the spoilers for SmackDown.
No, we just talked about spoilers in general, of whether we feel spoilers being out will help or hinder SmackDown. I say help.
A philosophical conversation about spoilers.
Correct. Yeah. Last question. What is your Christmas Eve, Christmas Day planning? Are you staying in? Are you doing anything?
I bought a TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I moved into a new house, and I guess with that comes a new wall and a new TV to get. So I waited for Boxing Day sales to arrive. So I'm gonna get my TV, probably set that up, and maybe even watch a bit of Wonder Woman on Christmas.
Okay.
Do we get that in Canada? Like, are we gonna get that via HBO?
Oh, you know what? I don't know if we do. I don't know if the Canadian version up here is going to get it or not, but I'm sure that's a Google search that will answer your question. I don't know, to be honest. I hope for your sake it does.
Well, I feel like somehow, some way, it'll probably end up on a TV set somewhere.
Oh, I couldn't imagine way.
I think it'll stream on Crave. Wait.
Oh, okay, that would make sense, right?
Following the theatrical release? Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be doing this right now. This should be a short podcast.
We are going to try our best. We said we would keep this to a brief show tonight. Let's see how well we do. This was a taped edition of Dynamite from last week. They'll be back live next Wednesday. And off the top was Chris Jericho and MJF taking on Top Flight, Darius and Dante Martin. And I didn't even mean to walk into this one, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I am very high on Top Flight.
Okay, yeah. Hard to...
I think this team is... I think like the potential is... the potential is limitless.
Oh, man.
The sky is the limit for Top Flight. My God, it's like I did not even plan for any of those. I just enjoy this team so much. They were in there with two great opponents that I think just made them shine as well. I just thought this was a great opening match, and these two, I just think that they are tremendous pickup by AEW. And my God, where these guys will be in 2 years, much less 5 years. It's going to be quite an interesting project to watch in AEW, given the skill set that they're at now.
Earlier in the day, you and I had talked about, it's interesting that they didn't put the Bucks match to start off with on off of the NBA game. By the way, they started at about 10:05, so about 5 minutes past 10. Anyway, but it's like you watch a match like this, and I think Top Flight are a perfect substitute for a Bucks style of match, which is exactly I think what they delivered here. And plus, you have the name value of somebody like Chris Jericho. So I thought watching this match, it worked excellently. Coming off of an NBA game with hopefully a bit more of a mainstream audience that you don't typically have watching Dynamite. They're a pair of excellent acrobatic wrestlers, and I just continue to be impressed at how confident and smooth they look. Sharing the ring here, with the top of the industry, like the likes of the Bucks, and now Jericho and MJF, like so good that it makes you wonder how this team wasn't signed earlier, and like what other talent out there exists that are this ready.
What do the DMs look like for the Young Bucks?
Unusable now. Completely unusable. You gotta, like, if you want to catch their attention, I imagine you'd have to, like, send snail mail with, like, glitter on the envelope,
These guys, I mean, they slid in there, and I guess they got checked on, and God knows what other talent might be just in the inbox unread. But, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the smoothness, because that's what stands out to me. Like, sometimes you can see young talent that they can do so many spectacular things, but it's almost like you can see them like they're thinking as they're processing what's going to be going next and getting in position. And it can be that, just the natural evolution that you're going to be kind of in this mechanical way of going about things before you get that flow down. And sometimes that can take years to do that, because especially these intricate matches that have a lot of complicated spots to them, it's, your brain's processing what's next and what's after that. But these guys, like, I just think the flow is one thing that stands out the most to me about them. Like, their age is just, it's very deceptive, because they come across as guys that have been doing this a lot longer than they have.
Agreed. Like, they're almost like, they're like a pair of Ricochets. Like if Ricochet had cloned himself and became his own tag team partner, they might be Top Flight. And I think this was also our first look at MJF and Jericho as a team for the first time, right? Have they teamed together before?
I think they've done a tag match on TV, but this was
like just the two of them, or as part of a larger tandem.
Well, they did the big tag last week, but just the two of them. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. Regardless, is that if they have, this is probably like, if not the first, the second.
It's still incredibly novel, and I still like. I love them together. You know, they like if I guess Top Flight are a pair of like clones. I kind of like. I was amazed at how similar in style and how good of a fit MJF and Jericho are together. Like they are much more of a slower, methodical, kind of old school type of tag team. And as heels, that's perfect. You know, relying a whole lot on personality, being great at just feeding this type of high flying babyface. So a really good contrast, I thought.
That powerbomb Lion Salt combo they hit on Darius, 50-year-old Lion Salt.
It's incredible.
There was an inside cradle by Darius for a 2, and then a blind tag to Dante, which he then flips onto MJF on the floor, and then Dante counters, hits a double DDT. Jericho is tossed into the timekeeper's table. Jake Hager, who's in the corner, then nails Darius, and this leads to the finish where MJF hits the Heat Seeker in 11 minutes and 44 seconds. A really good match with the 4, and to me, Top Flight was... I would say by the end of this show, yes, we had a really entertaining main event as well, but my biggest impression coming out of this show was Top Flight. That's what I was thinking about at the end.
This is my match of the night.
Yeah, they did a really great job with this. So, and probably like you would imagine one of the, if not the biggest quarter, like depending on how big that NBA game is. So it could have been quite a lot of eyes on at least the beginning of this match.
I would think so at 10 o'clock. Yeah.
Jake Hager says that since they had the ultimatum 2 weeks ago, everyone has done their job in the inner circle except Wardlow. He's away on family business. Hager, I do my job, and he announces that he has cleared it, that he will face Wardlow next week. And MJF is very concerned about this, and we've got the inner circle fighting.
Yes. Yes, it continues sort of like a rhythm of like push-pull with the inner circle. You think they're on the same page one week, and then there's always something pulling them apart the next. And it's captivating. This feud in particular has been kind of brewing in the background, like literally just through glances in the background for like over a month now. And so by the time that they've gotten to this match, I'm quite excited for it. It's all it required was like, a small promo from Hager here, and then the official announcement of the match. And I have a whole week to anticipate it. It's another good thing I thought about this segment. They left you something to look forward to.
One thing that, is we always talk about how loaded this roster is. Like there's too many people on this roster for this 2-hour show. You do have Dark in there, but primarily it's Dynamite. The benefit of that is the fact that we don't get the same people wrestling every single week and in all the combinations. And like when they announced this, it's like Wardlow, like here's someone that we haven't seen wrestle in quite a while. And it's like he gets this kind of a showcase next week. And it feels like it's not the biggest thing that's going to happen next week, but Wardlow wrestling, it's something that hasn't happened in a while. And there's another guy who's, when we have seen him go long, has shown incredible potential. So it makes some of these performers, when you can build it up properly, it feels like a bit of a big deal when they can have a focused match rather than Wardlow and Hager had been wrestling every single week on TV for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah. And then maybe in the middle, like before commercial, they do some sort of weird count up finish and then they restart the match. And then that New Day Hurt Business feud is the complete opposite of something like this. But that template that they've set for Wardlow, making him feel special. I mean, they've done that at the same time with Jake Hager. So you have a meeting now of two, maybe not so often used men in their singles matches, and it's one I'm looking forward to.
The Acclaimed put out a music video ahead of tonight's main event entitled "Buck Hunt." This included them mocking the Young Bucks for quitting Twitter, kissing Dave's ass for a star rating.
I liked what I heard. Certainly better than the freestyle we heard tonight. I wish they played a bit more of this. It was catchy.
I would have loved a Frankie Kazarian video, but what was even better was the segment we got from Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. Did you see this on Dark on Tuesday?
I heard about it on Shot in the Dark, and I did not see it. Why don't you let us know?
So Britt Baker's been doing her interview segment on Dark, the waiting room. And on this one, it was very much kind of like the Rockers deal, right down to being here on the interview set. And it's Kazarian just running down Daniels, like, for all of our losses as SCU, it's been you that has been the one that has lost. You got hurt, and Scorpio Sky had to step in for us to become tag champions last week. I know you got hit by the boombox, but you lost. And he's saying, I'm not saying this because, he's trying to say this as his best friend. I was the best man at your wedding. I know how you love this industry, but I take everything seriously in this industry. I've made my living for 22 years. I put food on my children's table from this industry. And it's basically showing him tough love to try and get Daniels out of this. And Daniels says, you know what? You're right, because this has turned into a job for me. And I have turned into hating this, where I hate having to get onto a plane and come here. And just saying, like, he's going through like this really difficult period of his career. And he goes to leave. Kazarian stops him and says, I know that you're a fighter. And there's one way to do this. It's that when the pressure is on, you come through. And what they're going to do is the Ric Flair story, where the next time that the two of them lose together, the team is done forever.
It sounded incredibly compelling, even via recap, and
it's a great segment. The two were tremendous together.
At this point in their careers, like, you really have to wonder how many more, title chase storylines you really want to see with SCU and Chris Daniels, even like with Scorpio Sky in particular. They've already won the belt. I'm not that excited for them to see it again. So at this point, you have to wonder what's really next. And I think there's still so much story to be told with Chris Daniels as sort of the aging veteran at the end of his career. And, like this Ric Flair story. Exactly. But now I think, to me at least, it seems pretty apparent that somebody's going to be turning heel. And I think it'll probably be Kaz, who I think on BTE has been really breaking out. He's always been breakout. And I think he's been incredibly underrated, like, for a long, long time. I'd love to see him go singles and turn heel.
Tony Schiavone welcomes Sting to the ring. He notes Darby Allin out in the rafters, and Sting is asked why he's here. And he talks about the memories of being around Dusty Rhodes, and I am not going to even try, but Sting, you can add his name to the list of people who can do a hell of a Dusty.
It was good. I was surprised.
It was pretty damn good. I thought he really nailed it. He talked about how Dusty suggested putting color on my face, color on my boots. I want you to glow in the dark, which I'm sure was verbatim the line that Dusty gave to Sting. And he would put him with Ric Flair, which he did at the first Clash. And he said that it's Dusty's influence that made him want to be involved here with AEW because of what they're going on and Cody being here. And then he goes to address Darby, but before he can, Team Taz interrupts. Taz runs down Tony, calling him a jabroni, introducing him as Sting. I'm sick of that shit. We see a shot of Darby in the crowd, and he leaves. And Ricky Starks starts cutting a promo saying they're going to stick their nose in their business, or Sting needs to stop sticking his nose in their business, or else he's going to get hurt playing in the jungle. The lights go out, and when they appear, Darby is in the ring, which I like the fact that they showed him leaving instead of us left with the idea that he teleported from the rafters into the ring.
No, he's not a teleporter. We're not seen to. He doesn't have any sort of special powers other than, I guess, surviving crazy falls and like jackass-like stunts. But he is still very much human, who can run really fast.
I can take him jumping off a bridge, but not just teleporting from the other side of Daly's place. So I like the fact that they actually showed him leaving.
He wasn't lit on fire in the segment?
No, he was not. He was not. Although we would have a Fiend-like segment later. And they state that in 2 weeks' time, January 6th, it will be Darby Allin, Brian Cage for the TNT Championship. Brian doesn't want to wait, but hey, Brian, we're going against New Year's Evil, so you're going to wait 2 weeks for this title match.
This, Sting big promo segment, I think, was a few weeks coming. Last week, I think, was when they really started to overstay their welcome with just the kind of like mysterious walkouts with baseball bat and very little substance. I like in this segment that they gave you a little bit. They gave you Sting talking about why he showed up here. He, talked about Dusty and just wanted to be involved, seeing his son start a new company. But they did not tell you everything. They're still maintaining a bit of mystery about what Sting wants to do with Darby Allin. So it's giving you at least a little bit, but still keeping you wanting to come back for more.
MJF walks into a room where Santana and Ortiz are alone. MJF acknowledges the cameraman, bringing him in, and he tells Santana, I know that you lost someone close. And this was, Santana, why he was away recently was his stepfather passed away unexpectedly. And he says that he lost his grandfather due to cancer, and I'm here for you. And Santana stands up, and you're not sure how he's going to react. They end up shaking hands and hugging, and Santana tells him, keep your head up. Always keep your head up. And he walks off, and Ortiz also shakes his hand as the camera stays on MJF. What an interesting scene this was.
Camera stays on MJF, who wipes tears away from his eyes. It was definitely interesting. The way this started off with MJF like talking to the cameraman, bringing him into the room. And the type of character MJF is. You saw his tweet about, his grandfather's passing. Very genuine, very heartfelt, that long tweet. But it ended, of course, with, a bit of heel shtick. So they were doing this, and I thought, are they really going to go where I think they're going to go with this? It's one thing for, I guess, MJF to like tweet about something like that in character, but it's another to do it on Dynamite, and it's another to bring Santana into it. But then, like, the swerve was that he stayed completely serious. He was incredibly heartfelt in talking to Santana, talking about his own grandfather. And then at the end, like, even wiping tears away from his eyes. Obviously, because it's MJF, you have to wonder what the ulterior motive is behind it all. But at least, like, tonight, it seemed like it was genuine.
Yeah. I was glad they didn't go the direction of like some smirk on his face or something at the end of it. I was glad they kind of just left it like this. I thought it was like a really kind of powerful scene that they had here.
What do you think the purpose of this though was?
I think in the end you will like this. To me is the audience, even people that would see this story for what it is would have to admit that was a really genuine moment from MJF. Certainly he can't be insincere here, where in the end, we will come back to this moment and look at this as this was a guy who was doing this for some ulterior motive and not being genuine.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think it'll pay off down the road where it'll be, man, you all roped us in with such a heartfelt scene and you were totally insincere.
It seems
I think it has more impact that way, that you'll look back and remember this scene instead of just instantly letting everyone in on the fact this is MJF just being MJF.
Again, it's that constant push-pull of like tension within MJF in the inner circle. Some weeks they all hate him, and then other weeks they seem to get closer than ever. And this seems to be a way for MJF and at least Santana.
This brings Santana and Ortiz into, like, these were the two that are most suspicious of him.
Santana
and now,
liked him, I believe. I think it was Ortiz and Sammy, but yeah.
Well, how did they explain? Because when Santana was away that week, that was during the ultimatum where, gosh,
maybe they had turned on him by then. I don't know, but this, you could see Santana and MJF getting closer as a result of this.
Yeah, Ortiz was the one who said you're growing on me like a fungus, but you're growing on me.
Right.
So anyway, this would be, this is our like first scene of like Santana really kind of bonding with MJF.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it was Colt Cabana 5 and 10 against the Jurassic Express. Jim Ross wanted an explanation for the numbers, so Excalibur explained what they represented. And Luchasaurus dumps Marco on top of 10. We saw it like several or many double team spots involving.
He dumped Marco on top of 10, and then Marco just clutched onto his neck and then rolled into the ramp and just like, It at least looked concerning to me. Did you notice?
I didn't notice that, but he did come back. I mean, he was heavily involved throughout all of this, but I don't doubt, like, landing on a individual like that's not a soft landing.
Yeah, he did finish the match, but at least, like, momentarily, it looked a little scary.
Marco would dive off Luchasaurus's shoulders and then 10 nail stunt from the floor. Luchasaurus sends Cabana into the post. There's a spine buster and frog splash combination by 10 and 5 onto stunt, with Jungle Boy making the save. And the closing sequence sees Luchasaurus lift up Marco's stunt and military press him to the floor, which, man, I feel worse now for Marco here if he had, in fact, had a rough landing earlier. So Cabana and 10 are down on the floor, and then we get the double team with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, where 5 is flipped by Luchasaurus into a sit-out powerbomb by Jungle Boy in 10 minutes and 27 seconds. Jurassic Express wins. There was a lot in this match.
There was a lot, but I mean, I enjoyed it. Admittedly, I was a little distracted just kind of like watching stunt, and he seemed to be okay for the rest of the match. But I thought it was a fun match.
It was a Jurassic Express match where, I mean, you're just going to get like nonstop action, but it's all like pretty entertaining for 10 minutes. Tony Schiavone was in the ring, and Jurassic Express gets interrupted by FTR and Tully Blanchard. Tully calls them the 2020 Tag Team of the Year and refers to them as Jurassic Park, and they're going to have a match on January the 6th. It's now personal. We're on a quest to regain the tag titles, and we're not going to have dinosaurs take us down a notch. Best line of the show. And then Tully isolates Marco's stunt, and he threatens to have a flashback to the 80s if he gets his hands on him. Dude, Tully Blanchard just swinging for the fences and hitting a home run on this final promo of the year, probably, for Tully.
That line at the end, like, what an awesome threat for an old man to deliver. I may have a flashback to the 80s.
Oh, this guy is just what a great talker. I'm so glad he is attached with FTR.
He sounded absolutely great here. Certainly much better use of Tully we've seen this year with FTR than, him with Shawn Spears. And I guess we'll talk a bit more about Shawn Spears later on. But, it's interesting with Jurassic Express. I would say now that the year's over, hasn't exactly been a year of growth for them. Like a year ago, I feel like they were hotter. Like certainly coming like the start of Dynamite when like all those Luchasaurus chants were very evident. Obviously, you can't get them now, but just we're not seeing them on screen as much. They're not involved in any sort of storylines. They're certainly not getting wins. I don't know if 2020 was a very good year for them. I don't think it was. Much of that was due to the pandemic, of course, but they're always ready, I think, for that big storyline and push. I think they should win this program. Like Bucks have already faced FTR. So I kind of want to see Jurassic Express get that upset victory.
Yeah, like I think they've got Jungle Boy. Like he is poised for when they are ready to go with him. Like he's kind of in that background position. But this is going to be the continual balancing act that they have to hold, where there's going to be acts like this and performers that fall into the background and are not going to be featured every week. And it's trying to keep, have them pop up every now and then, but you risk that. Like for one, we talk about, well, they're not having Wardlow wrestle every week. It feels kind of special. And then a Jurassic Express, it's like, well, they're on less than they were in the past. It's going to be such a difficult juggling act when you have so many people that you're trying to feature, and you can't feature everyone. I don't disagree with you.
There's a difference between, I think, being kept away, but still having a presence on TV so that you're reminded of who this person is. And in fact, you want to see them wrestle more, and not being seen or featured at all. And I kind of feel like Jurassic Express have kind of fallen more into the latter category.
Alex Marvez caught up with Kenny Omega and Don Callis at the hotel. They've all got their masks on. And this was a first because Alex Marvez did the whole interview with his mask on. Callis and Omega did take them off, but
so now I guess the context was that they're outside of the venue, and
they were at they said they were at the host hotel, the team hotel. Yes,
so out of the bubble, I guess you can call it.
Callis says, "This is our personal time. This is actually kind of creepy that you're here. Doesn't understand how Tony Khan can allow the wrestlers to run amok in AEW, and Pac is able to make this match with Phoenix." Omega goes over the times that he has beaten Phoenix where he's choked, and he couldn't continue in the Eliminator tournament. So now he might put Phoenix out for good, and then Phoenix can always call up Conan. I'm sure AAA will take you back. You get hurt, I get titles.
I enjoyed this little segment. You know, if you watch this and you watch like what they did on Impact, it was certainly the meter of the two segments. I think something as small as this, they're really nice little ways to unify the two shows, and we did not get any sort of Impact open challenge. You know, no run-ins today on this taped episode of Dynamite. We shall see if we get anything in the next couple of weeks, but it at least, like, you know, these interviews with Don and Kenny at least make you feel like the story is somewhat progressing, again, without really giving too much away. Still think it's novel to hear like Kenny Omega talk about other companies so openly. You know, maybe AAA will take you back. Maybe Conan will take you back. I've got friends in Impact Wrestling that might take you if we drive you out of AEW. Like, I still find it very novel to hear those lines.
The Butcher versus Pac. Eddie Kingston was on commentary, just ripping on Tony Schiavone. He's trying to get in a promo read. Kingston's cutting him off. Tony's telling him, shut up while I'm reading this. Phoenix, they explain, is off training, so he is not in the corner of Pac. Pentagon is out there. Butcher got the heat, stomping away at Pac. They just tried to showcase the size disparity. Bunny and Blade are getting into Penta's face as Pac is getting overpowered. And then Pac kicks out of the corner, but again, he is repeatedly stomped down. They go through a break. Pac fires back with all these vicious leg kicks, goes to the chest, hits a spin kick, a super kick, then a missile drop kick. He climbs up for the Black Arrow, but Blade distracts Penta on the floor. This causes Pac to be distracted. Butcher fires back, and we get a huge powerbomb by Butcher and a near fall, and then he gets pissed off with Bryce Remsburg. And then we had this pause where Butcher is just kind of holding on to Pac. Eddie Kingston is yelling at him, hurry up, more urgency, more urgency. And he gets up from the broadcast area. He's yelling at him. Butcher is literally just holding this guy's head. And it seemed like there was some delay because he was waiting for the Archer run-in to come out. This is it. Like, Butcher was literally just like
He's
on pause. Yeah, it was like I was playing 2K20 or something.
I was going to say, like, it was as if you were playing a video game on easy mode, where, like, the sprite just kind of stands there waiting for you to, like, do moves to him. I don't know what was going on here. Maybe, yeah, it was just a case of, like, him missing a cue from Archer or something, or Archer missing the cue. But this is also a tape show, so you couldn't have edited that or, like, sped that up. It was super weird.
Like, it was longer than, like, the story they were telling of Eddie Kingston wanting him to get, like, he was literally just, like, frozen there. Like, this was not like he was being lazy or he was showboating. Like, he was just, like, waiting for something to happen, and the something was Lance Archer running out. It was a very awkward part of this match. Pac is then able to lay out Butcher as Eddie Kingston hides behind the announcers from Archer, and then as Pac has made his comeback, he hits the Black Arrow and wins in 11 minutes and 48 seconds.
The match itself, I mean, you know, yeah, we kind of like are joking about this weird thing at the end, but I would say the match itself, for an AEW match, like, the action was a whole lot slower. So I know Butcher, like, probably, I don't know, it might be intentionally wrestling a slower style, maybe just in contrast to everybody else, but it was so slow that we didn't get to see that much action from Pac. So I didn't really think this was a very good match.
It's a bit of an adjustment. Like, it sounds weird, but it's a bit of an adjustment now of Pac going back to playing like underdog babyface.
It is a little bit, yeah.
Like, he's just got like that heel presence that it's been so synonymous with him for the last 3 years. And in this, it's like,
still has it. I mean, it's just more like badass, like, kind of like, I think he's a better babyface now than, you know, certainly like Neville.
Certainly a very different babyface.
Yeah.
Eddie continues a promo, wishing the announcers goodbye. He does wish Jim Ross a Merry Christmas, but F off to Tony Schiavone. Jade Cargill congratulates Brandy. She says motherhood's a beautiful thing, but it's really convenient that as soon as I show up, you get pregnant, which was quite the line.
Good line.
Shaq has called out Cody. I've called out Brandy, and I want a worthy opponent. I'm tired of this shit. and she says time is ticking. There were way too many shits on this show.
Well, it is 10:30 by this point.
That does not stop them, regardless of the time slot. This Dynamite could be on at 2 p.m, and I think they'd be saying they're tired of this shit.
You get away with what you can on cable, I guess.
It is a real crutch for some of the promos. Like, to me, it's not. It lacks any kind of pop that someone swearing should have. It just feels like hey, we're able to do this, so we'll do it a lot.
They need to escalate it. I think we got to introduce some other curse words.
Okay, yeah. Maybe that's the Eddie Kingston route.
He'll just start saying like fuck and the C word and
go through the whole Rolodex.
Yeah. I was happy to see Jade Cargill finally cut a promo. Number one, because she is excellent at it. Like, how did this
very, very strong delivery? How did this woman... and this was a much more condensed one than where they sent her out with Cody. So they put her out there for a long time. The last one, this was but her delivery is there.
I hear this and I wonder, how did it take so long between that segment and this for us to finally hear her speak? Especially because in that time they've dangled so many loose threads with this woman that I can't keep track of what's been going on. It begged for at least a promo like this for her to tie it all up. Here, I mean, unfortunately it's too late because Brandy is no longer going to be a part of the story, but nonetheless, I'm glad she addressed it. I love the line of saying, "Oh, suddenly I'm here and you get pregnant." That's awesome heel, like a great heel line. Did she at least mention Nyla? And
she didn't bring up Nyla in this promo.
Oh, she didn't?
No.
Okay, never
She said
mind.
she wants a worthy opponent.
Well, that's too bad. I don't know if she's even involved in that anymore. Like, that whole thing, I think has been handled poorly. But at least she addressed Shaq, so still seems to be tied to that. Who do you think the next opponent is?
It's got to be a worthy opponent. They're going to have to link Brandy with someone to represent her. So I think it's got to be someone with an attachment to Brandy or someone that stands up for Brandy. Red Velvet would be like. Then
She's
again,
like,
there's another person though you have to like kind of introduce to everybody. Like, she did the run-in last week.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, man, you're just throwing so many people out there. Like, I feel like we are getting into Greek mythology territory here with like all the characters to follow.
Could be Swole, could be Serena Deeb. Although Deeb is champion, who's Deeb got?
What about Mel? Remember Mel?
Yeah, barely.
Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's these characters that like you have not thought about that are there.
Is Mel still with Luther? No, right?
I think so.
Luther is with
Serpentico.
Serpentico. So not with Mel. Mel is with who was the other person? Yeah, like no clue. No clue.
I couldn't tell you. Shavani is with Miro, Kip Sabian, and Penelope Ford. And Kip says this is gonna be the first wrestling wedding on TNT, which tells me Kip Sabian missed out on his David Flair, Stacy Keibler wedding from Nitro in the year 2000.
He was probably like 5 at the time.
Well, I would say go back and watch it, but don't.
Yeah, factual error here.
They go to reveal the date, but then the Best Friends music plays, and it's a ploy. They all laugh, and we see footage of Trent being loaded into an ambulance, grabbing his arm, which there was speculation that he might have injured himself last week, and he was grabbing his arm here. That seems to be the injury, and Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy leave with him in the ambulance. And we go back, and they announce that the wedding will be February 3rd at Beach Break, the moment that defines this company's history, this wedding.
Isn't it a bit early for the beach?
I don't think anyone should be going to the beach.
Well, sure. But I mean, especially in February 3rd? I mean, that's still winter here. Well,
it is Florida, but nonetheless, I don't know. Is a beach is that really something we should be looking at doing in 6 weeks?
Well, I don't know about that, but maybe appropriate that this takes place in February, because I think this feud has been very cold. They've wasted so much of this Miro debut on video games and other bullshit. Even like that great street fight that the best friends have come off of, I don't think they managed to build on. It feels like it's been going on forever, this program. So we'll see how they'll handle the wedding. I'm kind of excited for the wedding.
Evil Uno and Dustin Rhodes. Uno immediately blasted Dustin as soon as he entered the ring. Tony gives a whole background on what the 7 character was. They're going to the floor. Great strikes from Uno, equally from Dustin. Uno misses and chops the post with his right hand, and Dustin rams the hand into the post several times. They go through the break. Dustin, during the break, hits the code red and a high cross. This guy is just defying age. There's a pile driver to Dustin he kicks out of. Spin kick to the head. This dude was watching Henan Barrow and Eddie Wineland. And Dustin takes this spin kick and comes back with a bulldog, and that's enough. 8 minutes, 29 seconds. I really got into this match. I thought they had a really strong TV match and one of Evil Uno's better outings.
Yeah, I agree. Dustin looked great. Like, who would have thought, like, the chemistry that these two had? But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was a really enjoyable match.
I really actually enjoyed the commentary here. You can really tell, like, where Tony and JR are able to shine is when they're calling wrestlers they have a long history with. And thankfully, it turns out like AEW kind of has several of these characters now. He sounded very authentic in this match. At one point he admits he didn't know that much about Uno, unlike Excalibur. But then, like, when talking about, like, Dustin's sort of like renaissance at this point in his career, JR straight up brought up how, in large part it's due to the man's sobriety. So it was like, I think, pretty refreshing commentary. And they finally gave us some background on 7 after 2 weeks.
Yeah, it is kind of funny that they have now made like this 7 character, like this mark of shame on Dustin Rhodes' history, which is what he is literally referred to, like the Black Rain character in TNA. Like, that is the period he doesn't even want to talk about. I don't know if this 7 character is something that he looks upon all that. I wonder if he even thinks about this 7 character, but Black Rain, that really is the period of his career he just has eliminated.
They're both just as obscure. Like, they
are, but Black Rain had like an actual run. It wasn't just, 7 was a promo.
Mm-hmm.
But a good match here. Uno is on his knees, offering his hand. Dustin is about to shake it, but then he attacks Evil Uno. Stu Grayson jumps him. Lee Johnson, who's in the corner of Dustin, gets involved, and he's attacked. And they hit the Nightfall backbreaker onto Dustin. And then QT runs out to fight them off. And Evil Uno hits a big right hand, which they do note was his injured hand. And Johnson goes for a springboard double drop kick, taking Grayson and Uno out of the ring. So several options here of where you can go, of like tag program or another Dark Order member. You could do a 6-man, and Lee Johnson gets like a bit of a spotlight in a 6-man. But I think continuing with this with Dustin, QT, the Nightmare Family with the Dark Order.
The spotlight here was put on Lee Johnson. I think he's the big project in the end of it all. So we'll see what sort of focus and development he gets.
Tony Schiavone did a sit-down segment with Shawn Spears. And Shawn immediately asked Tony, "Why did you leave the industry for as long as you did?" Shawn explains, he too bet on himself. "I left New York. You can change the 3 letters, but not the glass ceiling." He throws away the glove. He says, "I never needed this. I'm better than 95% of this roster. Getting worked to believe that I'm not good as I am here in this company. And I've been burying myself out of a hole that Tony Khan and Cody put me back in," I guess referring to the chair shot. And Tony asks, "Do you think you could be the problem?" Shawn thinks, "Not for a damn second. You're a real piece of shit for saying that. I could work anywhere in the world. And you can tell the executive vice pricks that I'll come back if I feel like it." Good line on the executive vice pricks. It's a good promo from Shawn Spears. This is kind of like the going a little too inside, but I think this audience kind of enjoys this kind of stuff, and I think it's Not to the extent of some promos that can go too far in this direction. But what did you think? This seems to almost be the latest restart for Shawn Spears, and the man is not wearing a glove.
Yeah. I thought it was the right amount of like, I wouldn't even classify this as worked shoot, because I think like, him talking about the glass ceiling, like, can just very well be him not getting the right amount of opportunity to, even have a match, even to perform, even in kayfabe. I think it works both ways. I really enjoyed it. He sounded great. It was like, I thought it was like it's very much like Chris Daniels. Like, it's very much taken a place of where he is in the middle of the card and making a story out of it, where he is clearly, this was to me an admission that in 18 months, he's not exactly successful in AEW. He is very much, I don't even know if you classify him as mid-card at this point, because he barely is even on Dynamite anymore. So it's like
he had the win streak on Dark. That was like kind of his thing. And then the Scorpio Sky thing, to me, it never really peaked.
No. This to me was also an admission that this black glove was a failed gimmick. I think it was stupid. What did they call that? What did they call it? The loaded thing. What did they call it?
I can't remember. The slug. The
slug. What the fuck? A slug? Yes, it's so bad. So, but I like the promo. I think he's in need of a refresh. I don't know if this is him threatening to quit the company. I mean, kind of. I hope not, because I hope they're able to like turn this into some sort of meaningful feud rather than like a prolonged absence.
Dasha spoke with Hikaru Shida, who's getting set to face Alex Gracia, and is asked about Abaddon, who appears and attacks her, and there's a pull apart, and Shida immediately has to come out for her match. So the match begins. Shida goes to the floor and nails Gracia with a forearm. There's a charging knee with Gracia draped on the apron, and then she spots Abaddon ringside. She goes to attack her and runs Abaddon into the rail and almost gets counted out. And as she beats the count, gets rolled up by Gracia for a 2 count. She holds Gracia awkwardly and then hits this backbreaker, followed by a Falcon Arrow, wins the match in 3:33. And then Abaddon rises up on the floor. They continue to fight, and Abaddon, who I guess we can't confirm or deny might be Shayna Baszler, bit out a chunk of her neck. This is our WrestleMania angle with Becky Lynch.
It was, yeah, except done with the person who actually makes sense, like would bite somebody, not a catch wrestler like Shayna Baszler. I thought the spot was awesome. I love the way it was shot with Abaddon's face directly facing the hard camera. Like, her makeup, her like contact lenses, like the look is so striking. Like, it's just so scary and so creepy for a pro wrestler that it just works. And biting somebody's neck is exactly the type of fucked up thing you would expect a character like hers to do. Again, not a catch wrestler like Shayna Baszler, but absolutely perfect with Abaddon. They did worked blood here. Again, perfect. I thought,
dude, I think she bit a nerve. Did you see all the blood that was coming out of the side of her neck? She needs a transfusion after this.
Yeah, bit her jugular. It was somewhat concerning how bright her blood was. But I think Shida too has shown like growth in this match. I liked her in this match. She showed that she was really no longer afraid of the monster and is willing to fight back. Was very aggressive here and chasing after Abaddon, even going in to finish the match and then going back. But I have to say, like, so much of the storyline just begs for vignettes and video packages for both characters. Shida, so that we know what's going through her mind. Like, she's going through a level of growth here in this match that we just kind of have to assume. Commentary is not really supporting it. We desperately need more interviews or like just video packages to explain what's going on, but especially Abaddon. Like, that's a character that just begs for production. And if you can't afford that production for whatever reason, like if you're telling me you can't afford a Road to crew, like to spend an hour with her or something like that, fine. Give her a mouthpiece. Give her a pallbearer. Jake Roberts is right there, who'd probably be able to cut a hell of a promo for somebody like Abaddon.
That would be quite the pairing. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't love this. I do enjoy the Abaddon character a lot. It's I just feel like the women's division right now, it just seems that it is it is open for whatever ideas, like what is going to stick. And I think that they are condensed into this same segment every week. And this was also for me late in the show where there was so many segments and angles on this show. Like, it just felt like tonight they crammed so much into the show that this just felt like something that we had to squeeze in before we could get to the main event. It was a lot of angles tonight.
I mean, it's a match that they're trying to get to next week. So maybe for that reason,
this was the go home angle. Yes. The neck is healed and we'll have the match next week.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. This was like kind of like the comic book element of pro wrestling that I could really enjoy, especially when it's a character as like well done as Abaddon. But yeah,
listen, I'm not like, again, like it's not always my cup of tea, but I definitely could see like there were people that really enjoyed that Fiend stuff on Sunday, and if there's an audience that gets into that stuff, then you should be trying it. And Abaddon is a cool character. Like, that is the character you're going to do more of that outrageous stuff with.
Yeah, like the Bray Wyatt character definitely maybe it trends more towards like off the wall, corny, almost laughable. Like this, I didn't think was laughable. I mean, I thought it was like, you know, like well done horror as opposed to a campy horror.
Next week, December 30th, the last Dynamite of the year, it's Kenny Omega, Rey Fenix for the title. Jon Moxley returns. Shida versus Abaddon for the women's title. And Jake Hager versus Wardlow. So probably several more announcements will be made over the week, as they tend to be just loading up their announcements by the time Wednesday comes around. But
big match.
Big show.
Big show next week. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Big Omega match. Moxley returns. You have a women's title match.
Yeah, the Moxley thing is that's a big thing for next week after he's been off for over a month, about a month. So, and then they announced Darby Allin and Brian Cage for January 6th, as well as Cody versus Matt Sydal.
Yes. With Snoop Dogg, right?
Snoop Dogg will be on January 6th. Next week, Jericho's on commentary.
Okay, cool.
And the main event, the Young Bucks against the Acclaimed for the tag titles. Max Caster comes out rapping. They're hotter than Topanga.
Yeah, what was that? What is that? Was that any sort of special reference? Like, was there?
Just if you were a Boy Meets World fan.
Like a random hot, like sort of like character from a 90s kids show?
Did you watch Boy Meets World?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know who
okay.
Topanga is.
I think it was just like a one-off like reference of Topanga. I'm like, okay. There's only one Topanga I'm aware of. I've never heard that name outside of Ben Savage's love interest.
Yeah.
So the match begins. They double team Caster, sending him on to Bowens with a suplex. And the beginning of this match, it was a lot of the Bucks just with the shine here. We've got the splash moonsault combo on the floor. We got a big hot tag from Nick just running wild. There was a swanton landing on Bowens' knees, and then Caster would drop him onto the edge of the apron. We go through the break. Nick is trying to get to the corner. Matt gets yanked off the apron. They're working on Nick's back. Matt would hit the rolling Northern Lights when he finally got in there on Bowens and applies a sharpshooter. Caster attacks, but Matt holds on to the sharpshooter. Nick pulls him down, applies his own sharpshooter, which they did refer to as the Scorpion Deathlock. Sharpshooter's out.
JR brought up Ricky Choshu here.
That's right. They said, or the, as it's known, the Sasori Gatame. Yeah, in Oklahoma. That's what we called it there in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we got a Choshu reference. Nick then does a bunch of super kicks, and the last one he misses and hits Rick Knox by mistake. Caster hits a low blow, and they hit him with the boombox, but the ref is out. So Paul Turner runs in. This is the big near fall. Nick kicks out. The Acclaim then tease an indie taker, which gets stopped. Bowens is super kicked over to Matt, who then power bombs Bowens through a table on the floor. Nick then super kicks Caster, BTE trigger, and the Bucks retain in 14 minutes and 47 seconds. The match that just like built and built and built, and then it had the usual super hot Young Bucks ending in those closing minutes.
It was a very good match, but I would say a very usual Young Bucks match. And I kind of have seen enough of them recently that, to me, this one wasn't all that memorable. I was definitely more curious to see like what the Acclaim could bring here, and they were definitely able to keep up. But I can't really say I saw anything out of the ordinary. Like they look like a very capable new tag team, but especially after seeing like a team as special as Top Flight, I felt the Acclaim seemed very kind of standard.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the two have a ton of potential together. This was a big spotlight for them. And I guess the question becomes now the follow-up. Like this is, it's almost like what they used to do way back, like in the Bruno days, where it's like you'd build up the big heel for the program, and then afterwards it's like you kind of phase them down. It's like, where do the Acclaim just go back to dark? Are they still relevant on the show itself? Like that will be the question is, you know, when you're trying to feature so many people, it's like they got their title shot. Now it's kind of to the back of the line.
I think they move on. I think they'd be perfect candidates to like face SCU, you know, maybe be the ones to actually end the team.
They have the win over them, so that would make sense to go back to that match at some point, like SCU trying to avenge that loss.
But I do feel like we're seeing in the Acclaimed a team that can be something big, but we're still seeing them in the very early stages of even figuring themselves out, feeling their gimmick out. Like we're still in the infancy. They kind of remind me of the New Age Outlaws, and then you have like Max Caster, who is, you know, sort of the road dog of the two. He's the charismatic one, does all the talking, and then you have Bowens, who's more like kind of the Billy Gunn of it all. He just needs sort of like his own version of like, you know, if you ain't down with that or something. But I think they're an act that can work, but it's still so early.
What was the good and bad of AEW tonight?
Opening match for sure. Definitely recommend people to go check out Top Flight versus Jericho and MJF. Tully's promo I thought was great. I liked Hikaru Shida and Abaddon. I like that angle. I like Jade Cargill's promo. And the main event was a good match too.
Yeah. I thought it was bookended by two, you know, strong matches. The opening tag was my match of the show. I enjoyed Dustin and Evil Uno quite a bit as well. I just thought, and this is a continual thing with AEW, is just, man, it's like I took a lot of notes tonight. Like there was a lot on this show, and I just like, do you remember the Shawn Spears promo by the end of this? Do you remember the Jade Cargill promo? Like Sting felt like it was an afterthought by the end of this show. It was just segment stacked upon segment. That to me is, you know, it's you throw a lot at people. How much is going to stick, I guess, is the question.
It's starting to become like, you know, a pretty popular like criticism of Dynamite now. Are they doing too much? You know, I think like, especially when you're in the game of like trying to get people not to switch over to the other channel, I can understand why you would pace everything so quickly. There are certain segments where I do feel like they could benefit from breathing a little bit more. But for the most part, it's like if the goal is to entertain me and keep me engaged for 2 hours, it's still a show that does that very well.
The other part, though, to that is that with all the things they're doing, it's not like they're cutting down match time. Like with the exception of the Shida match with Gracia, that only had about 3 minutes. Everything else had time. Like pretty much, we had 4 matches that were over 10 minutes. 2 of which, like your main event got 15. So it's like they're not shortchanging. Like none of these matches I'm watching, it's like, oh, they really got hampered by just there was so much on this show that, you know, Evil Uno and Dustin had 8.5 minutes. There was a break in there, but it was a good enough time for them to have. Like it was, they're not shortchanging the match time, which is still the predominant focus of the show.
Yes. At this point, let's go to the forum just to get your votes. We're not going to read feedback, unfortunately. It is a bit of a shorter show, just so that we can make everybody, give everybody a bit more room to listen to the Christmas show, and also because we've had a long day. So let's go to forum.postwrestling.com for the vote. Out of 10, you guys thought this edition of Dynamite was a 7.13. So I believe below average for the year.
Yeah, a little bit below, but nonetheless, like a fine episode. I would definitely recommend the tag matches, especially if you want to check that out. And some good promos on the show, some very good promos, and a great Dusty impression.
From Sting, yeah, would have thought.
So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you to everybody for checking this out. The post-wrestling Christmas show drops Thursday, Christmas Eve. Thanks to everybody for checking this out. And Wai and I are going to be back on Saturday with a special Rewind-A SmackDown as we'll go through that show. I want to wish everyone a tremendous holiday, tremendous Christmas, whatever you are celebrating. Tibbs Eve. If you're going to get tipsy over the holidays, stay home, don't drive. This is the year to just stay in and do whatever you need to do within reason and within the law.
Yes, as always. Yeah, I echo those sentiments. Thank you, everybody, for being with us for another year. Like, this also marks probably the last podcast we're going to do as part of this official end of third year.
Happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary, John. Yes, of course. Christmas Eve is when we began this entire project. So we're 3 years in now. Bigger than ever and happier than ever. So thank you, everybody, for your support.
Thank you to all of you for listening and checking this out. And we will speak with you now. Go download the Christmas show.